The morning dew still clung to the marble headstones of Cave Hill Cemetery as Marcus Johnson began his rounds. For 15 years, he had tended to these grounds in Louisville, Kentucky, watching over the final resting places of both the famous and forgotten. But there was one grave that always commanded special attention from visitors and staff alike, that of Muhammad Ali, the Louisville Lip, the greatest boxer who ever lived. On this particular Tuesday in April, Marcus noticed something unusual. A small crack had appeared at the base of Ali's headstone, likely from the harsh winter freeze and subsequent thaw. As cemetery caretaker, it was his responsibility to ensure all monuments remained pristine, especially one as frequently visited as Ali's. If this story has already made you feel something, however small, don't leave without giving back. Comment and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. Gonna need to get this fixed right away, Marcus muttered to himself, kneeling down to examine the damage more closely. As he ran his weathered fingers along the crack, something caught his eye, a glint of metal beneath the stone. Curious, Marcus gently probed the opening, his heart quickening as his fingers touched something solid. With careful movements, he extracted what appeared to be a small tarnished brass box, no larger than a paperback book. Marcus held his breath. The box was sealed tight, with no obvious opening mechanism. Etched into its surface were the words, "Open 7 years after my passing, Muhammad Ali." His hands trembled. 7 years had indeed passed since the boxing legend's death in June 2016. Whatever was inside had been deliberately placed there, meant to be discovered exactly now. Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed the cemetery director, knowing this was far beyond his authority to handle alone. By noon, the cemetery office buzzed with tension and excitement. Lonnie Ali, Muhammad's widow, had been contacted and was en route from her home. The cemetery director, a stern woman named Patricia Winters, ordered the box to be left untouched until Lonnie's arrival. This could be nothing, Patricia cautioned, though her eyes betrayed her curiosity, or it could be something Ali wanted the world to know, but only when he felt the time was right. Marcus couldn't help but wonder what secrets the box might hold. Muhammad Ali had been more than a boxer. He was a cultural icon, a civil rights activist, a poet in motion whose words outside the ring proved as powerful as his jabs inside it. What final message had the champion left behind, meant to be discovered only after 7 years of silence? When Lonnie Ali arrived at Cave Hill Cemetery, her dignified presence commanded respect. Though 7 years had passed since her husband's death, grief still shadowed her eyes. Yet there was strength there too, the same quiet resilience that had supported Muhammad through his long battle with Parkinson's disease. "I knew nothing about this," she admitted, her voice steady as she examined the brass box in the cemetery office. "But it doesn't surprise me. Muhammad always thought ahead, always had a plan." The small gathering, Marcus, Patricia, Lonnie, and the cemetery's legal counsel, fell silent as Lonnie carefully examined the box. Her fingers traced the inscription, lingering on her husband's name. "This is his handwriting," she confirmed. "I'd know it anywhere." With trembling hands, she found the hidden latch that everyone else had missed, a small indentation beneath the etched words. The box opened with a soft click. Inside lay a handwritten letter, folded neatly, the paper yellowed slightly with age. Beneath it was a small, worn leather pouch. Lonnie unfolded the letter, her eyes scanning the page. Tears welled up, spilling down her cheeks. "It's from him," she whispered, "written before his condition made writing impossible." She began to read aloud, her voice gaining strength with each word. "To whoever finds this, though I hope it's you, Lonnie, I've lived a life of big words and bigger actions. I shook up the world, just like I said I would. But now that my fight is nearing its final round, I want to share something I've kept hidden, something more precious than any championship belt." Lonnie paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "In the pouch, you'll find my grandfather's pocket watch. He was born into slavery but died a free man. He gave it to my father, who gave it to me. I kept it close during my biggest fights, not as a good luck charm, but as a reminder. A reminder that my struggles were nothing compared to those who came before me, that every time I stepped into the ring, I carried their hopes, their dreams, their unfinished fights." Marcus noticed his own vision blurring with tears. The greatest of all time, a man whose confidence had been legendary, revealing such humility and historical perspective. "I never showed this watch to the world, not because I was ashamed, but because some things are too sacred to be turned into headlines. But now, 7 years after I've gone, I want people to know No matter how high I rose, I never forgot where I came from. None of us should. Lonnie carefully opened the leather pouch, tipping its contents into her palm. The pocket watch was small and unassuming, its silver case dulled by time. She gently opened it to reveal the watch face, still keeping perfect time, and an inscription inside the cover: "Freedom is never given, it is won, 1865, the date of emancipation." "There's more," Lonnie said, returning to the letter. Within 24 hours, news of the discovery at Muhammad Ali's grave spread across Louisville, then throughout America, and finally around the world. The Ali family, after careful consideration, decided to share Muhammad's message publicly, both the letter and the story of the watch that had silently accompanied him through his greatest battles. The Muhammad Ali Center in downtown Louisville became the centerpiece of renewed interest in the boxer's legacy. Lines stretched around the block as people waited to view the pocket watch, now displayed in a special exhibition. Museum curators worked tirelessly to create context around the artifact, telling the story of Ali's family stretching back to slavery times. James Patterson, a boxing historian who had written extensively about Ali's career, found himself overwhelmed with interview requests. "This adds an entirely new dimension to our understanding of Ali," he explained to a CNN reporter. "We knew he was conscious of his place in history, but this reveals how deeply he understood the continuum of the African-American experience. That watch traveled from slavery to freedom to worldwide fame and acclaim. It's an American story distilled into a single object." Social media exploded with reflections on Ali's legacy. Many people shared stories of their own family heirlooms and the histories they represented. Hashtags like Tunch Ali Watch and Remember Your Roots trended globally. In Louisville's predominantly black West End, where Ali had grown up as Cassius Clay, the impact was particularly profound. Community leader Darlene Williams organized a series of neighborhood discussions about legacy and remembrance. "What Ali is telling us from beyond the grave is that we don't exist in isolation," she told a group gathered at a local community center. "We're all carrying the hopes and struggles of those who came before us." That watch wasn't just a timepiece, it was a witness to history. Former opponents and fellow boxing legends weighed in too. George Foreman, once Ali's fierce rival and later his friend, appeared on a sports talk show, visibly moved. "That was Muhammad," Foreman said, shaking his head in admiration, "always thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody else. Just when you think you know everything about the man, he shows you there's more to learn. Even now, he's still teaching us." But it was the second part of Ali's letter that truly captured the world's attention, a part that contained instructions that would lead to an even more remarkable discovery. The concluding section of Muhammad Ali's letter contained a detailed set of coordinates and instructions for a location in his childhood neighborhood. The Ali family, working with local authorities, followed these directions to an old community center where young Cassius Clay had first learned to box. Behind a brick that appeared no different from the thousands of others making up the building's facade, they discovered a small cavity containing a weatherproof metal container. Inside was a second letter and a collection of small, individually wrapped items, each with a name attached. This second letter explained Ali's true intention. Throughout his life, he had collected small mementos from pivotal moments where he had made decisions that defined not just his career, but his character. A fragment of the torn-up draft card from when he refused military service, a pebble from the running path where he trained for his comeback, a pressed flower from the garden where he decided to convert to Islam. 27 items in total, each representing a crossroads in his remarkable life. But what made these items extraordinary wasn't just their connection to Ali's biography. His instructions were explicit. These artifacts were to be given away, not displayed behind glass. Each item was designated for a specific type of recipient: a young boxer facing discrimination, a student activist risking their future for their principles, a patient diagnosed with a debilitating disease but refusing to surrender their dignity. "My life was never meant to be a museum piece," Ali had written. "What good is inspiration locked away where it can't do any work in the world? Find people who are fighting the same fights I fought. Give them something to hold on to when the world tells them to back down. Tell them it's from me and that I believe in them." The Ali family created the Ali's Corner Foundation to fulfill this wish. A careful process was established to identify recipients who embodied the spirit of Ali's own struggles. The first ceremony took place 3 months after the discovery, on what would have been Ali's 85th birthday. Serena Johnson, a 16-year-old boxer from Chicago fighting to compete despite gender barriers, received a fragment of Ali's original hand wraps. Miguel Ortiz, a college student facing deportation because of his immigration activism, was given the pebble from Ali's training path. Aisha Williams, recently diagnosed with Parkinson's at an unusually young age, received the pressed flower. The recipients weren't just given these items, they were connected with mentors, resources, and each other, forming a community that crossed boundaries of age, race, religion, and circumstance. Just as Ali had transcended being merely a boxer to become a global humanitarian, his legacy was now actively shaping new generations. Diana Ross, a respected journalist who had interviewed Ali multiple times throughout his career, perhaps summed it up best in her editorial for the New York Times. What Ali understood, and what he's reminding us now, is that legacy isn't passive. It's not about being remembered. It's about continuing to make a difference. Even from the grave, he's still fighting for what he believed in, still bringing people together, still shaking up the world. As the first year of the Ali's Corner initiative drew to a close, the foundation prepared for an anniversary event at the Muhammad Ali Center. Recipients of Ali's mementos would gather to share how their lives had changed, how they'd faced their own fights with a piece of the champion's spirit literally in their corner. And in Cave Hill Cemetery, Marcus Johnson had been promoted to head groundskeeper. He made sure fresh flowers always adorned Ali's grave, and sometimes, when the cemetery was quiet, he would stop there for a moment of reflection. "You're still full of surprises," he would say to the marble headstone, "still teaching us how to be better than we are." The greatest had fallen silent, but his voice had never really been stilled. And now, through objects touched by his hands and the new hands that held them, that voice would continue to echo, calling for justice, for compassion, for the courage to stand by one's convictions no matter the cost. The champion's final round, it seemed, had only just begun. If you've made it this far and felt every word, don't leave without subscribing. I tell these stories with my heart in my hand, to reach people like you who feel, who get emotional, who live. If this really touched you, give back, comment, subscribe. Come be part of this family with me until the next video.